ladies, never let a rich dude, a famous dude, influencer, whatever type of dude, or really no man record you sleeping with him. Don't let him put that phone in your face, recording you giving him fellatio or tapping you from the back. Because you gotta understand, once you get in that loop, you gotta understand, bro. Men we talk to, men gossip just like women, bro. That's not just a woman thing. We just can't do it so outwardly because it's a woman thing. You know how y'all can't sleep around with different women and talk about it so outwardly? Because it's a man thing to do that. It's the same thing with gossip. Men gossip just like women, bro, if not more. So guess what? Guess what's being shown when we get around the boys? The videos of tapping you. Guess what's also being shared? Your Instagram, your Facebook, your Twitter. And you think about it, you got an influx of guys hitting you out of nowhere. After you let somebody put that flash in your face, just know you in that bad loop. You in a super bad loop. Don't never let nobody record you sleeping with them, man. Never do that, because once you do that, your reputation is damn near ruined. Your reputation is damn near ruined. Especially amongst the men that's getting some money, some paper, that's in these elite circles that y'all want to try to get into. Your reputation is done. Your best bet is going to be dating men that ain't in them circles, that don't know nothing about you being recorded, sleeping with him one day, sleeping with him the next day, sleeping with him the day, and his high rise the next day, and his high rise the next day. Yeah, I'm going to give y'all the game raw and uncut. Let nobody record you. Your reputation going to be done.
So if you're a pretty girl working in corporate America, the thing to be careful of is that not every senior guy who is supportive of you and who likes you is doing it for the right reasons. And by the way, I'm not saying that I'm really pretty. I'm just saying this is a problem that I've experienced. It's a problem that my really pretty friends have experienced. But for these types of guys, like, when you rub them the wrong way, when things don't go well and they turn on you, like, it could be so bad. Like, it could be 100 times worse than someone who was just lukewarm about you from the very beginning. So be careful, ladies.
I love both of those videos because they are getting at, in my opinion, a very important concept for women to grasp, but from two completely different angles. So to start, because I have talked about this particular example a little bit on my channel by referencing certain series and talking about the dangers in mixing business with pleasure. And obviously that was depicted in the Beautiful Woman's TikTok, where she was describing that in corporate spaces, I hear a lot of rhetoric about, oh yeah, you're going to be safe. You're completely fine if the person who you're working for, and we're speaking to the female population specifically, the person who you're working for, obviously they're higher up, they are more established, and maybe they have a liking, or they took a liking to you rather, because they felt like you were attractive. They were attracted to you, and that's why they gave you the position. And what I love about her TikTok is she depicted the reality. In a live that I did some time ago, I was explaining, I think we were talking a little bit about attire or something like that. And I was stating that even though in certain environments, I completely get it. Like, the way that you present yourself is an expression of your personality and things like that. But the purpose of this channel and a lot of the content that I put out is being able to perceive predatory persons and predatory personalities, because it's going to save you from a lot of traumatic experiences. But nevertheless, I love in her TikTok how she stated that, yeah, ideally, those types of dynamics in a professional setting, the person who is, more established than you, who is in a prominent position, and them taking a liking to you simply because of the way that you look, ideally, yeah, that can be peachy keen, but the harsh reality is that's not always the case. What happens when you don't allow this person to pursue you in a particular manner, in an intimate or romantic manner, and you're under the impression that you got the position and you got the job because of what's on your resume, right? What you agreed to do. You're coming there to do your job. But what happens when this person keeps pursuing you, and then when you set a professional boundary for the sake of your own reputation moving forward, they retaliate and they start to sabotage you and they dispose of you. And here's the thing about it, if we're being completely honest, I think there have been a couple of instances where the tides are shifting, but for decades, let's just keep it real, women typically walk away with the scarlet letter. So this video is really dedicated to the female population because I want us to sit with these alternative concepts. I know a lot of the time we're fed narratives about like, yeah, girl, use what you got. And I'm not saying it in, a harsh or callous manner because, I'm a woman. So we've had these conversations amongst, friends, friend groups. It's women, we know what we talk about. And I also know that a lot of women have this ideology that, girl, you might as well just use what you got. Work with what you got, use it to your advantage, etc. But from being affiliated with certain people that I love and care about, and seeing the aftermath of them doing so, people don't talk about the aftermath. And to me, that's so, how can I describe it? To me, for a lack of better words, to me, that's trifling, that you're not giving women the flip side, the downsides of you following this particular piece of advice. So, as I stated before, what I appreciate about her TikTok is she presented that alternative reality because life is essentially a spectrum. There's two sides to every coin. There may be some instances where women, as long as they're on the same page, it works out perfectly fine. If that is the person who hired her, if that's their agenda and she's on that same type of time, perfect. But what happens when you're under the impression that, okay, I'm here to do my job, I'm here to work, you know what I mean? And I can't afford for someone to pull the rug from under me because they thought they were going to get lucky, right? I can't afford that. What happens when you're under the impression that you all have established a professional agreement, and the moment that this person gets access to you, they start to overstep those professional boundaries? And when you do not entertain their advances, you have to pay the price for it. And as I stated earlier, some people don't have the luxury of, oh, okay, the rug was pulled from under me. That's fine. I have a little bit of cushion set aside. I have a backup plan. Most people, especially in this economy right now, I'm going to be honest, most people right now, they can't really play like that. So giving practical and realistic advice is very important when we talk about these concepts. Now, another thing, and this one is a little bit more, in my opinion, taboo, but I love taboo topics, and that's why I plug, literary resources on this channel that discusses taboo topics. And even as I mentioned earlier with the example that the woman gave in a professional context, pulling from excerpts in the book In the Lion's Den, Navigating Systems of Power, such as Watch Where You Lay, Made to Master, all of those excerpts address taboo topics within professional settings, specifically how you should be cautious of pursuing romantic rendezvous in a professional atmosphere, because 9 times out of 10, the downfall isn't going to be the best. Now, I also want to reference the man's TikTok at the very beginning of this analysis. And I actually struggled with talking a little bit about this, even though there's an entire excerpt, there's multiple excerpts talking about this phenomenon in his video. In the book, All Strings Attached, The Queen's Quarrel. That book gets into a lot of taboo dynamics, things that are uncomfortable. It addresses a lot of trauma. And this is a form of trauma, in my opinion, when a woman is exploited because someone who she trusted, especially when it came to like physical intimacy, out of rage, maybe this person wasn't honest with their intentions, right? So she was kind of blindsided about the aftermath, right? She was blindsided about the fact that this person exploited her and exposed her in such a manner. And what I appreciate about this man is he gave women a heads up. I think a lot of the time as women, we can kind of raise our eyebrows. And you guys know, I came on this platform talking about envy and jealousy. So sometimes when it comes to women taking advice from other women, they may be a little reluctant, especially in the love department, because unfortunately it can become competitive and catty. And you have to be cautious and weary of a person's intentions when they're giving you specific advice. However, as a woman, and if you do date men specifically, whether it be you're heterosexual or you just, you entertain men here and there in a physical capacity, in a romantic capacity, what I appreciate about his video is he was providing a male perspective. So this, in my opinion, it kind of seals it of, okay, some people, when you hear it from another woman, it's not hating. Sometimes they're trying to warn you out of love. And another thing that I appreciated watching that man's TikTok is in the comments section where women were stating, and sometimes this happens without a woman's knowledge. I think that's another thing that needs to be addressed, right? And this is why women coming together and having these conversations is so important. So you can hear from women's perspective, especially if they've personally experienced such a traumatic event and an unfortunate event, to be specific, them sharing the fact that I didn't even know that this person was doing X, Y, and Z. And then behind the scenes, the conversations that were being had, I didn't even know. And this is why in my older videos where I kept emphasizing that it's important to not only understand that love and logic can coexist, but after a certain point, you have to understand that love and logic must coexist. Because some people aren't entering into romantic partnerships with pure intentions. It's predatory intentions. And I'm also aware of the fact that some women just don't know. They didn't have, a father figure around to give them a heads up. They didn't have brothers around to give them a heads up. They didn't have male cousins around to give them a male perspective as far as what to look out for. So a lot of the time they had to learn through lived experience. And it's actually making me think about a friend that I had, and she confided in me years ago. She confided in me that she was actually very frustrated with her parents because she felt like they sheltered her from the truth. They did so much sheltering that she felt like she actually wasn't prepared for the real world and for the battles and challenges that were going to, inevitably cross her path, because this is just the hard knock life. This is what comes with the territory. And this is why I do plug resources the way that I do for people who don't have individuals in their immediate environment to give them, these specific and tangible references and examples. So even in a case such as this one, where the man was talking a little bit about, you have to be careful, because people will play with your reputation when you do certain things. But we also have to be fair and considerate that there's an opposite end of the spectrum. Some women were not aware that certain things were happening until it was too late. And this is why, I try to provide a safe haven for women who are being ridiculed for not knowing. But I understand the fact that it's only until you've experienced something, or if you were blessed to be given a heads up by someone around you who loved you enough to put you up on game. Nevertheless, in the book All Strings Attached, The Queen's Quarrel, it lists different types of determinants. And what these determinants do is they provide practical and tangible examples of what to look out for. Because a lot of the time when you're dealing with someone who is predatory, they are operating from a pattern. Someone who is healthy, someone who has a conscience, and, they operate in some kind of integrity and morality, if they're presented with that, information, maybe not even information, but say they are, about to do something with someone they're romantically involved with, right? In the back of their mind, they're like, oh man, I definitely don't want to pull the phone out. I don't want to do anything crazy without their permission, because that's their pattern. They are used to operating in integrity. That's a part of their character. Someone who is predatory, a part of their character and a part of their pattern is exploiting people, taking advantage of people, and hiding their true intentions and ulterior motives. So for individuals who are not aware of what these patterns look like, especially when we dissect it from a predatory lens, the book lists it to help you moving forward. But piggybacking off of the opposite end of the spectrum comment that I made earlier about what the man was describing, he was talking about this in, the capacity of, well, if you agree to it, you got to be mindful of the fact that, once it's all said and done, this person may start talking. And if you start getting all of these random advances moving forward, these people may not have good intentions. Now, I do appreciate the fact that he was painting a picture of a cycle A lot of women are at the receiving end of a cycle that they don't even know about. They're not aware of. They're feeling like, dang, is it just a case of bad luck? Why is it that I keep getting in one relationship and the same thing keeps happening over and over again? Women think it's bad luck, but it's really a culprit behind it. Someone has put out something, to a group of people, and they got this narrative ringing about you. And when people approach you, that narrative is in the back of their mind. And that's why their intentions aren't pure when it comes to you, and they have an ulterior motive set in play. So I do appreciate the fact that this man was honest enough to paint this cycle to help women. Now, I will say this, the flip side of it is sometimes, how can I say this? Sometimes this is done intentionally for abuse purposes. Some individuals will do this because they want to make the other person undesirable and to keep them under their thumb and under their control, no matter how much they abuse and mistreat them. And to explain this further, I'm actually going to read. I'm going to read from an excerpt in the book, All Strings Attached, The Queen's Quarrel. Damaged goods. This is a tactic implemented by an abusive partner. Their goal is to possess and control their lovers. They view their lovers as their personal objects. This tactic is prevalent when there is significant objectification. The objectification is designed to ensure you don't move on from them, but they have free rein to move on from you as pleased. To do so, they must mark their prospect in a territorial manner. Another way an individual utilizing the damaged goods method hinders their romantic prospects is through devaluation. This person will jeopardize a lover's reputation, disclose private information, leak explicit imagery, and get this person to engage in acts, examples given sexual escapades, that are degrading to make the prospect unappealing to potential suitors. The degradation leaves a notable scar where they are not only emotionally and mentally intertwined with the person displaying abusive tendencies, but they are also marked with exceptional shame. Now, becoming aware of these abuse tactics is the first step. The second step is implementing a course of action. And to put the icing on the cake for this analysis, I also want to prepare women for what will come with implementing a protective measure. And typically, when you implement a protective measure in a romantic capacity, you may experience some pushback. And I'm going to give you an example. I was recently talking to a woman, and she was telling me about her sobriety journey. And she said in the midst of her, dealing with this, and this person had disclosed to me that they had actually been battling with substance use for decades. And they said they were dating someone at the time. And the moment that they started their sobriety journey, they realized that their partner started to put up resistance. And this person was breaking down, and they were getting really emotional. And they were feeling bad about the fact that they chose sobriety. They chose to essentially protect their health and protect their well-being. And they said the reason why they were crying and they felt like there's something that they could have done differently is because their partner told them, well, I just feel like you were more fun sexually when you were drinking and you were using substances. And typically, I'm the kind of person where I let people go through the motions. I don't necessarily interject, but something in my spirit just did not sit right with that, because I knew after we had that conversation, if I didn't speak up, that woman would never have a seed planted in her mind that her choosing sobriety was the best decision for her to make. She would have been grieving over this relationship and thinking she lost something, not realizing that what this person was communicating to her, y'all forgive me, but I said what this person was communicating to her is, it was more important for you to be a freakazoid than for you to put your health first. It was more important for you to be this world is a joke. Y'all, this world is a joke. It was more important, and I can't do this anymore, so I have to leave you in your time of need. You're healing, and you just accomplished a major milestone. battling with substance use for decades and stepping out on faith and not just starting your sobriety journey, but taking the initiative to stay committed to it, that is not easy. For people who don't even understand addiction cycles, there are so many different stages that people go back and forth from because it's difficult to break addiction. But nevertheless, I had to communicate to this woman, bless her heart. I had to let her know, honey, you're not experiencing a loss. You mean to tell me that this person prioritized you being sexually fun over your safety? And before I knew it, what I said was, sometimes we have to acknowledge when people are holding us back. And I did not mean to sound insensitive, but it's the truth. And I try not to come off as like a ice princess when I have these types of discussions, especially, making certain points such as love and logic must coexist. And, I think I've seen someone comment a little bit about, well, love isn't a game and X, Y, and Z. And I said, yeah, that's true. You may not be playing a game with people when it comes to love, but that doesn't mean that people aren't playing a game against you. I remember months ago, someone put in the comments, and I really appreciated this. They said, defense wins championships. And they were like, you're ahead of your time. And I said, thank you. I appreciate that so much. But what I really liked was the analogy of playing defense. A lot of the time, people are only operating from offense, but you can't have a one-sided approach in this thing called life. You have to be able to perceive all perspectives. So if you're just operating through the lens of, well, I'm solid and I operate in love and I wouldn't do people wrong, and you come across somebody who has completely different intentions, after a certain point, okay, the first time you didn't know any better. The second time, okay, you experienced this in the past, but sometimes you think it's a coincidence. By that third time, the responsibility is going to be on you to start implementing change. And I will say this. There is scripture that, because you guys know I'm faith-based. For those who are new here, I am faith-based. I am a Christ follower. There's scripture, and it talks about be as wise as a serpent, but as innocent as a dove. So you don't have to compromise your integrity and your character, but wisdom looks like you being aware of other people's character, even if it's not in alignment with your values, because that's how you protect yourself. All right, babes, that's all that I have for this analysis today. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. But of course, I want to hear you all's comments, opinions, perspectives, as well as personal experiences with situations that we've discussed in this analysis today. I look forward to speaking to you guys in the next video, babes. Take care.